One particular delivery to an Ohio Red Lobster restaurant in the summer of 2020 should have been like any other. But then a female employee removed the lid of a crate, and after peering inside, she saw something that looked a bit odd. Indeed, this bizarre sight was a sea creature that she'd never seen before. The restaurant's found in Ohio's Cuyahoga Falls, and the consignment drop-off was delivered by air in July that year. This form of transport cuts the travel time significantly compared to road routes, and it ensures the eatery's ingredients are as fresh as possible. Cuyahoga Falls is located around 7 hours by car from New York City and 40 minutes north of Cleveland. And despite being minutes from Lake Erie, Red Lobster seafood is not typically found in that body of water. The Red Lobster restaurant ships its main ingredients from both ocean catches and farm-raised stock, but something wasn't quite right when that July day's air shipment arrived. To wit, it was staff member Laura Jones who first spotted an oddity among the usual fare. Jones subsequently showed her colleagues what she'd seen, and none of them could believe their eyes. Furthermore, they soon knew that it wasn't going onto the menu. That's because the creature found lurking in the shipment was actually an incredibly rare discovery. Today, Red Lobster is a chain seafood restaurant with more than 700 sites across the United States, but its beginnings were more humble. The company was founded in 1968 by Bill Darden, who opened a lone eatery with the help of his family in Lakeland, Florida, and the restaurant was to specialize in his favorite cuisine, seafood. According to the company's website, Darden believed that everyone in the US should be able to enjoy the best quality seafood, however far they're located from the coast. Then just 2 years later, his restaurant caught the attention of food conglomerate General Mills. With the company's investment behind it, Red Lobster's menu evolved through the 70s and proved a hit with customers nationwide. The restaurant chain's popularity surged at the end of the decade after numerous famous advertising drives. Consequently, by the mid-1980s, Red Lobster was able to establish a site in Canada and devise themed promotional events, such as the now traditional Valentine's Day Lobster Fest. Today, Red Lobster operates sites in 11 countries, including Qatar, China, Japan, and Ecuador. Its website adds that the company hires 58,000 staff and is the world's biggest seafood restaurant. Not only that, but the firm also has plans to expand further. Like most restaurants, Red Lobster's range of food covers main courses, appetizers, soups, salads, sides, and dessert. The eatery serves lunch as well as dinner, and it offers an array of party planners, family deals, and kids selections. But as well as the expected aquatic fare, the restaurant chain also throws a few culinary curveballs. For instance, there's a chicken and steak selection with a choice of filet mignon, sirloin, or NY strip steaks. Also on the menu is a Cajun chicken linguine Alfredo, along with a surf and turf option of Maine lobster and sirloin. Sides might come in the form of green beans, baked potato, fries, mashed rice, a Caesar salad, or Cheddar Bay biscuits. Of course, a glance at Red Lobster's menu shows that the menu largely consists of seafood dishes. Appetizers are a choice of lobster and langostino pizza, Parrot Isle jumbo coconut shrimp, langostino lobster artichoke and seafood dip, white wine and roasted garlic mussels, seafood stuffed mushrooms, and mozzarella cheese sticks. Any of these might be followed with a choice of mains and side dishes. A typical fish dish might consist of salmon fresh caught that day from New Orleans or the Atlantic Ocean. The catfish option, meanwhile, is raised on a farm. And if you're dining with children, they have a range of choices, including golden fried fish, popcorn shrimp, chicken fingers, or mac and cheese. Moreover, combos consist of lobster, shrimp, crab, scallops, clams, salmon, and mussels. But all these options and the company's millions of customers a year puts a huge strain on fish populations, and the survival of certain species is a growing concern. As Red Lobster says on its website, traceable, sustainable, responsible. These are more than just words on our menu. It's our promise that all of the seafood we serve is sourced to the highest standards. Because as one of the world's largest seafood purchasers, we believe it's our responsibility to protect and preserve our oceans and marine life for generations to come. Red Lobster says that it vets its long-term suppliers around the world in person before entering into a partnership with them. Naturally, this ensures that the company knows exactly where the fish that arrives in its restaurants comes from. What's more, the chain can ensure that the delivered produce is of highest quality. The seafood restaurant claims that its suppliers comply with sustainability guidelines within the fishing industry. These standards are regulated by official bodies such as the Global Sustainable Seafood Initiative and Best Aquaculture Practices. Further to this, Red Lobster says that regulations set by the aquaculture improvement projects and its fisheries equivalent are also adhered to in order to keep fish supplies plentiful. The company writes on its website, "We support and follow regulatory efforts that manage fish populations and mandate our suppliers comply with all applicable laws. To achieve this, Red Lobster abides by regulations set out by the Total Allowable Catch Organization, which monitors fish populations and manages fishing quotas." The seafood restaurant chain further claims that it has known where every piece of seafood it serves came from since its inception in 1968. Furthermore, Red Lobster is a founding member of the Global Aquaculture Alliance, and it helped formulate the Best Aquaculture Practices certification. Red Lobster says that it supports total allowable catch regulations which manage the population of fish, and the company also apparently avoids catching at-risk sea life. Meanwhile, the staff at Cuyahoga Falls branch were about to have their own experience of dealing with rare sea creatures when they spotted something unusual among a delivery. You see, what worker Laura Jones had found in the shipment of ingredients was a blue lobster. General Manager Michelle Falconer told Today in July 2020, "At first the lobster just looked a bit off, but when we put her in our tank she was this beautiful, brilliant color." Naturally, the distinctive blue hue stood out from the other lobsters in the delivery. Anthony Stein, who is a culinary manager at the Cuyahoga Falls establishment, told NPR that same month, "At first it looked like it was fake. You see, staff had sent a picture of their find to him since he wasn't around to see for himself." The lobster that the workers had discovered was of the common American variety. The species is usually a familiar red color, but this one was different. Due to a rare genetic defect, its shell was blue instead of its typical hue. As Stein observed, "It's definitely something marvelous to look at." The workers were certainly taken by the unusual-looking creature, and they named it Claude, with Claude being claw in honor of Red Lobster's mascot. But if the creature wasn't to become one of the restaurant's delicacies, what would its fate be? Well, employees soon began ringing their contacts to work out what should happen next. At first, staffers apparently made the lobster feel comfortable. Server Angie Helbig explained to NPR, "We kept it in the tank and just made sure nobody took him in the back for dinner." But they knew Claude wouldn't stay there forever, so they reached out to partners across the seafood industry. The blue lobster was getting acquainted with other crustaceans in its temporary home, and in the meantime, management at the eatery got in touch with the corporate office, which then contacted the Seafood Watch program at the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California. As it happens, Red Lobster is a member of the Marine Life Facility's Seafood Ethics Initiative. What's more, Ohio's very own Akron Zoo is also a member of the Seafood Watch program, and it's this establishment that was nominated as Claude's new home. Days later, the blue crustacean was transported to the zoo's aquarium, where the staff had prepared a tank for the lobster, and by all appearances, the creature settled in well. Manager of Akron Zoo Animal Care Kathleen Ballog explained to NPR, "Staff sprung into action. They prepared a suitable area and made a cage so the lobster would feel comfortable. She then drove to Cuyahoga Falls with a coworker and a large cooler filled with cold seawater to collect the zoo's newest addition." Vets performed tests on the blue lobster upon its arrival. Ballog told the publication, "There's a little bit of wear and tear from its journey, but the crustacean was otherwise in good shape." However, the zoo made another interesting discovery. The lobster was actually female. Claudia, as she was renamed to reflect her gender, is in fact an incredibly rare find. Indeed, it's widely agreed that there's as little as a 1 in 2 million chance of coming across such a lobster. It's a statistic that's supported by the University of Maine Lobster Institute, but its executive director Rob Bayer told the BBC that this figure is just a guess. Bayer told the BBC in May 2016, "The chances of this happening nobody really knows." His comments, meanwhile, relate to a couple of fishermen in Canada who found 2 blue lobsters within days of each other off the US Atlantic coast. However, a professor at Cambridge University in the UK called David Spiegelhalter believes that the guesswork may be accurate. Rough estimates suggest that 200 million lobsters are fished in the North Atlantic annually, according to the BBC. Therefore, if the 1 in 2 million guess is correct, then only 100 of the crustaceans would be blue. Spiegelhalter told the BBC, "For 2 blue lobsters to be caught 3 days apart, quite close to each other, doesn't seem at all surprising. I'd imagine it happens most years. Nevertheless, 1 in every 2 million lobsters is still a pretty long shot, so Akron Zoo is treating its new inhabitant with care." The genetic mutation that creates the abnormality causes increased production of a particular protein, which apparently creates the blue coloring. Charlie Ellis, who works at the National Lobster Hatchery as a researcher in the UK, described lobster colors to the BBC. He said, "The American lobster is usually a sort of greeny brown, so anything bright blue would look very odd to fishermen there." Ellis continued, "European lobsters tend to be a duller blue color. The real sort of iridescent blue is still rare here, but the difference is that to a European fisherman, it will seem less completely out of the ordinary than it would seem to a North American." Though regardless of how infrequently they are seen, other colored lobsters are even more rare. For instance, the yellow variety make up around 1 in 30 million of total stocks, according to the Lobster Institute. Furthermore, the albino lobster is an even rarer find. The BBC added that chances of discovering one of those is around 1 in 100 million. Bayer went on, "Whatever the odds of catching different colored lobsters, there's no denying that bright blue ones are truly beautiful creatures. They might not be the most unusual, but they are undoubtedly the best to look at. Indeed, it is the hope of Akron Zoo that Claudia will eventually make it into a display for the public." Vince Jeffries is Akron Zoo's Director of Marketing and Public Relations. He told Today, "Shortly after we introduced Claudia to her aquarium, she started moving rocks around to create her own cave. That was a good sign. It means she's doing well. However, she must shed her shell in the fall in order to continue growing." Claudia is actually in isolation at the time of writing. It's Akron's policy to quarantine new arrivals for around 3 months or more due to safety. Nevertheless, she will eventually be housed alongside other lobsters, although she'll have her own tank due to her variety's preference for a cold water habitat. Akron is also reportedly offering limited numbers of sponsorship packages to raise funds for the lobster's care. For $50, fans will receive an adoption certificate, a picture of Claudia, a lobster plushie, in blue of course, and a list of facts about the creature. Meanwhile, donations will pay for medical bills, food, and care for her habitat.